It ain't nothing like God's system. And it ain't ever gonna be nothing like God's system. There is nothing better than God's system. And there will never be anything better than God's system. No matter what you're dealing with in this life, no matter what you're going through in your mind, no matter what's going on with your finances, no matter what's happening on your job, no matter what you're going through in your body, everything that's an issue in life is covered by God's system. Any problem that you will ever experience in life is controlled by God's system. And I know even now, a lot of people cannot wrap their mind around that truth. A lot of people just cannot believe that the word or the truth or faith or God's system is that powerful to where everything is controlled by that system. Everything is controlled by that design. But it's true. That's why I say it ain't nothing like God's system. God's system, God's design, the way that God made, handles everything in our lives. Then, I love the way the word turns around and tells us, do not worry. All this stuff we dealing with in life, how can you tell us not to worry? You don't have nothing to worry about because God's design can handle that. Then he turns around and say, don't even look at the things that are seen, but look at the things that are not seen. Because the things that you see are just temporary. But the things that you don't see, that's what's eternal. He's telling you right there, no matter what's going on, we covered. No matter what's going on, we can handle it through God's system. Now, if you're using any other way, I don't know what to tell you. Pretty soon you're going to hit rock bottom. If you haven't already hit rock bottom. Because the only way to get things done successfully in this life is to use God's design. Is to use God's system, which is what Christ said he was. The way, the truth, and the life. No matter what you deal with, use this way, use this truth, use this life. It's the answer to everything. One thing that's common to hear people say they're gonna do is go back to school. Like, man, you know what? I think I'm gonna go back to school. And that's because people actually trust that the school system can do something for them in their life. They actually believe that the school system can help them better their life. And then you hear people say, hey, I applied for that job, or I'm hoping I get this job or that job. Some people work 2 jobs. Some people get excited when they reach the point where they make a certain amount of money on whatever job they work. That's because they really trust and believe that the workforce or the system of working and getting paid is going to help them to better their life. But look how many people have degrees on top of degrees. Look how many people have 1, 2, and 3 jobs or more. Did it really better their life the way they thought it would? No. Did working multiple jobs really make their lives better the way they wanted it to? No. Because all other systems fail. The school system can't do what God's system can do. The working system cannot do what God's system can do. The system of checks and balances cannot do what God's system can do. Ain't nothing like God's system. And some people think, yeah, that faith stuff, that word stuff, that was good in the Bible days, or that was good in grandmama and granddaddy in them time. That was good 50 to 100 years ago. It worked then. But I'm telling you that God's system is still relevant. Even to this day, God's system is still extremely relevant. The way that God created is just as relevant today in 2025 as it has ever been. God ain't lost no power. God ain't lost no ability. God has not lost any relevancy. The truth is still the truth today, the same as it was years ago, decades ago, centuries ago. The only thing that has changed is us, people. Now you got people who think, well, the truth just ain't gonna get it these days. They think the truth ain't enough these days. The truth just don't work like that no more these days. I was talking to some Jehovah's Witnesses one time, and they were trying to explain to me how miracles just don't happen no more. They were trying to explain to me how God doesn't have prophets on the earth anymore. They were trying to explain to me how God's believers now really can't operate in power the way they did in the Bible days. If you fall for that foolishness, you done lost your mind. God's system, God's way for us to live by faith, God's design is just as powerful today as it has ever been. It just amazes me how so many people will try so many other things. But when it comes to trying God's system or God's way, they just automatically believe that it won't work. They just automatically believe that faith is not really relevant. They just automatically believe that miracles and blessings are a thing of the past. That's amazing. That's amazing how this world has really got so many people to accept that lie. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what it is you're dealing with. If you obey God's way, if you follow God's plan, if you follow God's design, it all works out. If you're following anything else, you don't have a guarantee that it's going to work out. If you're following any other system, you don't have a promise that it's going to work out for your good. But if you follow God's way, if you follow God's design, if you live your life by God's system will heal your body. God's system will supply every need that you have. God's system will pull you away from sin. God's system will cause deliverance to take place in your life. God's system will cast out any demon, will drive away any demon. Following God's design will pull you away from trouble. All of this happens when you obey God's system. All of this happened for me once I started obeying God's system. I had been going to church, but once I started obeying God's system, my entire life changed. I had been giving the tithe, but once I started following God's system, my entire life got better. I had been praising. I had been doing the running and the jumping. Nothing changed until I started living by faith and following God's design. Because it ain't nothing like God's system.